Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? It's Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, here with you for another episode of the Steelers preview. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, and with me, as always, my co-hosts Bryan Anthony Davis and Dave Schofield. Bryan, how are you this evening?
Hey, I'm doing good, Jefferson. Feeling good. It's 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. There's so much to talk about, but there are going to be newly minted Steelers coming up very, very soon, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. And Dave, what about you?
I'm doing great. I love seeing Bryan seem to be back to his jolly self after getting over his sickness. I'm really excited about this draft. It's hard to believe that right now there's several guys out there that for the next several seasons are going to be a big part of what we do with the Steelers, and they have no idea where they're going to be right now, for sure. It's exciting for us. I just can't imagine being in their shoes. It's a great time of year.
Absolutely. And so if fans had not had a chance to check out my show that ran last night, the Steelers Burning Question, this is not a, this is not me plugging my show. What I'm saying is that we're doing a giveaway, and I put this out on Twitter prior to the show, and the giveaway is this. We are giving away 2 tickets to the Steelers draft party at Heinz Field the Saturday of the NFL draft. So you'll actually get to see rounds 4 through 7 at Heinz Field. They will announce some of the picks there, and it'll be a really cool experience. We're giving them away for free. And the stipulations that I stated on my show last night were this. Number 1, you have to be able to go to the actual event. So many people want to be involved, and yet they can't make it, or they don't live near Pittsburgh. Look, if you're willing to drive there, fly there, walk there, doesn't matter, as long as you can get there. Step number 2, you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will check, and if you're not subscribed, you're essentially eliminated from the contest. So if you're listening to us on a podcast somewhere and you want to get involved, you have to go to youtube.com and search BTSE Steelers Radio and subscribe to the channel. Lastly, you will have to answer questions. Today starts the first round of questioning. Dave will give you that question a little bit later in the show, and he will tell you the email address, and I will also put that email address in the description of this video once it's uploaded, that you have to email to basically put your name in the hat. And so we had a lot of people leave comments last night about how I'm already subscribed. I live in Pittsburgh. I want to go. Tonight's the night. Step 1 of 4 in terms of 4 questions. You got to be ready, got to be listening. So keep your eyes and ears open if you're watching on YouTube, that is, and make sure you're writing things down, whatever you have to do, so that you can get your chance at actually getting yourself to that NFL draft party. I know Dave's been there. I know Bryan's been there. They say it's a great time. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the weather cooperates and you have a great time, courtesy of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. With that said, let's get straight into the news. The biggest news, in my opinion, today was Ramon Foster this morning. He's very active on Twitter, but Ramon Foster, he came out. It was kind of strange. He took a picture of his notes from his phone. He said that he spoke with Marquise Pouncey and several other veterans on the team, and he said how basically we've come together and had put together this statement. And the statement, I'll sum it up if you haven't read it, is if you're a former player, if you have a beef with someone that's on the team right now, reach out to someone and do it behind closed doors. We're sick of everyone taking it public. And that's kind of the grand scope and scheme of what they said. I'm sure the Steelers organization wasn't thrilled that they did this, because the public relations team certainly wants to be a part of any type of statement released by players within the organization. But this came on the heels of Rashard Mendenhall going on Twitter, responding to fans and saying that Ben Roethlisberger was a racist, and that's one of the reasons that Antonio Brown left. And he then backtracked on those statements, saying that he was just basically giving an example of how one person saying something that even if it's not true can slander that person's name. I get what he was saying. I get what he was trying to do. I don't necessarily agree with it, and I think that what he did was wrong in a lot of ways. But first and foremost, let's talk about the statement from Foster and Pouncey and others et al., so to speak. Bryan, we'll go with you first. What were your thoughts when you read the statement? And I guess you can chime in on Rashard Mendenhall if you want to as well.
Oh, I will comment on Rashard Mendenhall. I've got a 8-year bone to pick with him, and it has nothing to do with fumbling in the Super Bowl. You wimp. But anyways, as far as the comments by Foster and Pouncey, they're sticking up for their team. They are locker room leaders, and they're saying, "Hey, look, we are," and I'm going to use this term that Ben brought up in the Super Bowl run of 2008. We're a band of brothers, and if you've got a problem, let it filter through us and we'll address it. And if you've got a problem, Ben, go ahead. But a lot of you are going out and trying to do this to go ahead and drum up some publicity for yourself. And it's just not the way we're doing stuff. The national media is going to go ahead and just take it all way out of proportion. As you're seeing it, you're getting your 15 minutes in the sun, and then it's going to do nothing but fracture this team. I love the fact that they said 10, 15 years from now, you want to come back as a Steeler. You want to do it with pride. So, I mean, this is mudslinging, slander, and they want it to stop. They want to start talking about 2019. They want to stop talking about Antonio Brown, and that's why they brought it up, and good for them. That's what being leaders are, and they need to come out and do it. Ben doesn't need to speak right now. They do. So I'm really glad they did. As far as Rashard Mendenhall, this guy is a grade A jagoff, and I'm going to tell you why. 8 years ago, one of the biggest things to happen in a long time in the United States of America was the assassination of Osama bin Laden. This guy came out and on Twitter after we know his resume of all the terror and all the heartbreak and all the tragedy that he bestowed upon this country. But this guy, Rashard Mendenhall, comes out and puts on Twitter, I think it's a shame, basically, I'm paraphrasing, that we're celebrating the death of another person. And then he kept on going, and then he did this same thing that he's doing now, the little bit of backtracking, just saying, well, I'm just trying to foster conversation and intelligent conversation. And so that's kind of the way that he is trying to go ahead and spin this. He's a very high IQ, and I'm not talking about a football IQ. He's a very smart individual. And I've read that about him. I knew it when he was drafted. He's also intelligent enough to be a writer for a television series, Ballers, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So the guy has some intelligence about him, but when it comes to common sense, I just don't think he has a shred of it. And you know what? I mean, throwing this out, then backtracking by saying it's just an example of racism, or I'm trying to foster conversation when you say pretty big things, that doesn't cut it. So Rashard Mendenhall, you're dead to me.
All right. So Bryan will be starting up the Rashard Mendenhall fan club. I think you have that Twitter account created already, right, Bryan?
I do watch Ballers. That's about it.
All right, Dave, go ahead. What are your thoughts on the statement by Foster, as well as the news that Rashard Mendenhall's comments? We'll say that.
I love our offensive line. I think they're the best in the NFL. I think they are the heart and soul of this team, and that is why this team, it doesn't matter, when there's the other drama going on and, we're going to lose a star running back or a star wide receiver. As long as we've got a quarterback and an offensive line, we're going to be a team that needs to be dealt with by other teams. And not only is this offensive line skilled, they just get it. They understand how it goes. And these two guys stepping up and making the statement is saying, you know what? We're tired of everyone wanting their 15 minutes in the limelight, or for their names to be meaningful again, because they aren't anymore. We're done with it. If you got a problem with the Steelers, we are the Steelers right now. Come to us. I love it. It's great. As for Mendenhall, my goodness, listen to Herm Edwards. Don't press end. Don't press send. What are you thinking? You honestly want to just put this stuff out there and saying, well, this was just an example. How would you like it if someone made a statement like that about you and then later said, oh, it's not true. That's just an example. That was a complete backtrack. He knew what he was doing in the first place. I just don't get it. These former Steelers guys, they just need to listen to Foster and do their thing. Just because you left the Steelers in a not so great way doesn't mean that you can't be a great Steeler. Look at it. Who's announcing one of the picks this year at the draft? Santonio Holmes, who they traded away. He's come back and done a lot of good stuff with the Steelers, a lot of events and everything for them since. These guys that don't burn your bridges, exactly what they said. You might want to bring your kids back around here sometime. Don't do that kind of stuff. I love that the offensive line is stepping up, because it's not just that these guys are leaders on the team. That whole position group is a leader of the team because of just the guys that they are and the skill that they bring.
Yeah, you're right, and I agree with everything you guys said. And what you kind of piggyback what you just said there, Dave. I agree, and this is something that Lance and I talked about on the Standard. Is a Standard way back. It wasn't that long ago that Ben Roethlisberger's leadership and all this stuff was being questioned. And we said that, everyone has their faults and some people are better leaders than others. But you know what? In my opinion, if I were going to handpick offensive leaders on this team, it would be the following people in no particular order: Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, Ramon Foster, Alejandro Villanueva. Those are my leaders. Those are the guys that you, as Ben says, you ride or die with. And they are, I think those are the guys that if they stand up in a meeting and say, knock it off, people are going to listen, especially now that the superstar divas, Brown and Bell, are gone. So in terms of Rashard Mendenhall and his comments, I'll give you, this is what happened today. I was walking into work and my phone buzzes and I look and it's Simon Chester, my number 2 guy, is across the pond in England saying, how do you want to handle this? And it's a link to Rashard Mendenhall's Twitter comments. And I read it and I said, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. We're just going to ignore it. And I'm thankful that we did. I personally, the reason why is I didn't want to bring anything even remotely related to racism onto the website. You're welcome, Dave, as our community manager.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Well,
but
and
also,
honestly, I was just going to say, you could tell that some people hadn't heard the news because someone referenced it in a comment and people were like, that's inappropriate. They didn't realize that it was actually in reference to what Mendenhall was saying.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess I just follow, like Lance has talked about this the last few times about no oxygen. Like, they don't get any oxygen, don't even give it any credence, don't even talk about it. And so I guess we're not really following those guidelines. But for me, Rashard Mendenhall means absolutely nothing to me. His opinion means nothing to me. What he does means nothing to me. I literally have not thought about that man since he fumbled in 2010. That's it. Even after the Bin Laden tweets, like I forgot all about that, Brian. I literally forgot all about it until you just brought it up. I remember that guy for one thing: fumbling the football. That's it. Well, maybe getting his shoulder blade broken by Ray Lewis as a rookie. But other than that, it's Rashard Mendenhall, people. I mean, when you think of Steeler running backs, you don't think of Rashard Mendenhall, period.
What about quitting? He quit first.
I don't even think about that.
That guy quit too.
I don't even think about that. I mean, honest God's goodness truth, I haven't thought about this guy in a long time. So anyways, so let's leave that story behind. And let's now go, we're kind of double dipping here talking about the NFL draft, because the Steelers have now had 28 pre-draft visitors, only 25 of those counted due to local visits. And recently they had some big name cornerbacks come in. We're talking Byron Murphy from Washington, DeAndre Baker from Georgia. And so I wanted to talk with my draft nicks here about, out of the 3 big name cornerbacks, we're talking Greedy Williams, we're talking Murphy, and we're talking Baker. Who do you want if all 3 are available? Who are you taking? Why? And what are some of the intangibles or tangibles that you like about them over the others? Dave, we'll go with you first.
I'm going to go Greedy Williams because he's tall. I'm done.
That's it? You sound like every commenter in behind the steel curtain history that ripped every single defensive back because he's 5'11" and not 6 feet tall. But tell me there's more to that.
No, honestly, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give away something that's coming along a little bit later with us. But when it comes to Greedy Williams, that I'm just not sure about. Honestly, I said it last week that I wasn't sure that I really wanted the Steelers to go cornerback early. I'd rather them wait. I'd rather them see if they can find someone that they think is good that no one else does. I think all of these guys have their pros and their cons, and therefore I'm scared to pick any of them, but at the same time, if one of them's there, I might want to grab them if no one else is there.
Well, what's your fear on Murphy? I'm just curious because I've read a lot about these guys the last few days. I've heard about the knocks on Greedy in terms of he's not a willing tackler. Baker, I've heard about personality issues. What's your knock on Murphy? Because I haven't read too much about him. In terms of negative, I should say.
I can't remember what if it was off the top of my head right now. I just knew that there was some. I think Greedy Williams is more of a gap between his basement and ceiling. I think with Murphy, he is more of a know what you're going to get. I think Greedy. I'm getting messed up. I think Greedy has a higher ceiling, but I think that Murphy has a higher basement, has a higher floor. So I don't know. I'm just not super excited about any of them for some reason.
Well, let's bring in Bryan. Bryan, what do you think about this? These trio of cornerbacks, who would you take and why?
I would not take DeAndre Baker. I don't like the off the field issues. I don't like the fact that
I don't want to interrupt you. What are the off the field issues that you're referring to?
There were a lot of I know there were a lot of problems on campus in the locker room. I don't have I do not have exact things to reference, so I do apologize for that.
No. You said enough. It's locker room stuff. He's not a good teammate.
Yeah, there's been some questions about him as a teammate, and as we discussed before the show, there's guys that you don't really want to touch right now because you just got burned. Dave made the comment, do you really want to go down that avenue again? And so that's kind of what I'm thinking here. There are so many possibilities in the first round. This is, to me, a much deeper draft than they've looked at in the past couple of years. I didn't think last year's draft was deep at all. I really didn't think 2016 was that deep, but I think this is one that they could really take about 4 or 5 guys and really hit, and even go at different positions and really hit. What the Steelers have done nicely is go ahead and bring in the guys like Steven Nelson to help bridge the gap. So they were not desperate on draft day. Dave made a comment a couple of weeks ago about last year's situation where everybody knew that they needed an inside linebacker, and where the price was a whole lot higher to go ahead and try to move up in a trade because they were desperate. This year, with the kind of guys that they brought in, they're not desperate as much to go and get an inside linebacker. They're not as desperate to get a corner. They're not as desperate to get a wide receiver because they do have some options there, so they can go for the best player available. But getting back to the cornerback position, I like Murphy a lot, but I'm obsessed with Greedy Williams right now. Dave made a comment beforehand that he could be a Rod Woodson type player, and I remember that draft. I had a migraine in 1987, and I got to stay home from school. And I turned on the draft. It was on a Thursday morning. It started at 7 a.m. back then. And this was, like I said, this is 32 years ago. And I remember watching them get ready to go ahead and pick Rod Woodson, and saying, I hope this guy drops. I hope this guy drops. He was so exciting that Tony Dungy went to Chuck Knoll, went to the powers of the be, and said, look, don't even scout this guy. He's not going to come anywhere near us at number 10. You're not going to get him. Let's put our attention elsewhere. And lo and behold, he's there. I think Greedy Williams, from everything I see about him, especially with that great height, with the ability to go ahead and blanket cover, he could be the guy that could be that transcendent player. So that's why I'm really excited about him. But don't be disappointed if you end up with a guy like Byron Murphy. He is a first rounder that you can be proud of.
So you still need. So you take Greedy over Murphy, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean the height's helping me on that too. But I just think he has that certain je ne sais quoi that it makes him an it guy.
Okay. I think the going with the Woodson comparison for both you guys is a little much. I mean, Rod Woodson was ridiculous. I mean, that guy's a Hall of Famer. But still, at the same time, I think everything I've read, and I did watch a little bit today, had some extra time at work. Byron Murphy, I like how he's physical. He can play both man and zone concepts. And someone in the live chat, it might have been Ken from New Jersey, a good friend of the show. He's been with us a long time, dating back to Blog Talk Radio days. He said that he's kind of very much like a Joe Hayden / Steven Nelson type. He's not phenomenal, but he's a very good player. And so I guess then the question becomes, do the Steelers need to have a secondary that is absolutely phenomenal, or do they just need guys that are upgrades over Cody Sensabaugh? You know what I mean? I mean, they have a pass rush that has led the NFL and tied, or it's been second, I'm sorry. In 2017, they were second. And then last year, they tied for first. They can get after the quarterback. I just think that if you have a very solid secondary, and trust me, if you get someone that's phenomenal, I'm not going to say that's bad, but if you could just get a solid secondary, that's good enough, right? Don't you think, Dave?
Yes, I think that's. Do you want more of the same, or do you want to take the chance on something that could be even greater? Is kind of where it falls. I do want to clarify something that Bryan said, and if he doesn't feel this way, he'll be able to say it. When I said to Bryan earlier before we were on air about Greedy being like a Rod Woodson, meaning that he would fall to a position that you didn't expect him to be there. I wasn't saying that, oh, well, he's going to be a Hall of Famer like Rod Woodson. I'm saying it was a situation like Rod Woodson. Is that what you were also meaning, Bryan? Or do you think he's matches the same skill set?
No, I agreed with you. I was thinking that, it's a kind of guy that could be that, well, a little bit of both. Let me backtrack here, because he could be, I felt you were saying he could be a great player, but the value in him falling to a 20 would be too much to pass up.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I got a little bit of that out of it.
That he might, they say, well, he wasn't in for a pre-draft visit. Well, that was because I don't think the Steelers are expecting him to be there at 20. So if he's actually there at 20, that would make it similar to a Rod Woodson situation. I don't know that I'm ready to compare him to that. Like I said, I think Byron Murphy is the safer pick, but I would think that Greedy Williams could give you something that you don't have otherwise, but I don't know if he'll live up to it. So I don't know. First round corner for the Steelers. I know we talked about it last week. A lot of it is because of where the Steelers pick, that they don't usually have the chance to get that great guy like Bryan brought up, which was a great point. It's not that they're terrible at drafting them, as they've never been in the position to draft the right guy. So if one of these right guys ends up down there, part of me is almost wondering, are they really the right guy if they're still available at 20?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out because, I mean, you could talk about inside linebackers, and I give you the example of, and I said this last night, where everyone's now saying, well, Devin Bush is going to be gone. The Bengals need an inside linebacker. Well, the Bengals also need offensive line help. So while everyone wants the flashy pick in their mock drafts, not many people are saying, well, they need a guard or a tackle. And if they take that, then you never know. So you just don't know what's going to happen. So with that said, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get to our giveaway. Okay, we're going to go into our Stat Geek segment. Dave's the one that has been kind enough to find out these 4 questions that you will have to send your answer to in an email to get these 2 tickets to the Steelers draft party, which is the Saturday of the NFL draft. That's rounds 4 through 7. I hear it's a great time. I've never been, but I hear it's a great time. So, Dave, first and foremost, tell them your email address. Like I said, I will put this in the description of the YouTube video. I will also have it on the BehindTheSteelCurtain.com article, so you can send that to him. Go ahead and tell them that, and then let's go right into the question for our first question of the giveaway.
All right. Well, first of all, just to take 20 seconds, it is a great time. I'm 3 for 3 kicking field goals on Heinz Field on these things because they had things like that. Met a lot of interesting people like Bill Hillgrove, like Craig Wolfley, like Louis Lips, like Matt Barr. Matt Barr was hilarious with my daughter. He was a real good guy. It's a good time, and you'll see the draft picks there usually that they made on days 1 and 2. But for my email, it's the same as my Twitter handle. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, so Jeff always gives me a hard time. Why can't you pick an easier email? But it is STLR, that's for Steeler, STLR, Superfandad. So STLR, SUPERFANDAD at gmail.com. That is the email.
Say that one more time. On my end, at least, you're breaking up a little bit, so say that again.
Steeler Superfan Dad, but it is STLR Superfan Dad.
All right.
At gmail.com. And here's the question. Before it's stated, I'm just asking it out there. If you know the answer, please don't put it in the live chat. Please don't throw it in on the comments. Just try to let us all have a good time with it. I'm going to start off with one that shouldn't be all that difficult to answer. A lot of people might know it off the top of their head, or it might not be too difficult to find, but we got to start somewhere. So kind of in honor of Jeff being from the state of West Virginia, we are going to say the question is this. In the Kevin Colbert draft era, meaning from the year 2000 and on, who is the only player the Steelers have drafted out of West Virginia University? Who is the only player the Steelers have drafted since the year 2000 from WVU, regardless of round? That is your first question, and you can email that to STLRSuperFandad at gmail.com.
SuperSteelerFandad at gmail.com. I just put that in the live chat for those that are in there so that they know that. And the question again was in the Kevin Colbert era, who's the only player they've drafted from West Virginia University? Lance says it was Jeff Hartman. That's not correct.
And you totally did the email wrong.
Did I really?
Steeler Superfan Dad.
Gosh, so your email sucks so bad. I'm sorry. Let me remove that. Steeler Superfan.
Super.
That was it. STLR.
And I'm putting it in there right now.
Okay, just listen to him.
And I watch me type it wrong. So go ahead.
I'm changing my email address now to Steeler Phenomenal, Awesome, Great, Father of the Year 2019 at gmail.com.
Yes, at gmail. All right, so let's say
okay. This whole name of mine came out of actually being at the Fan Blitz, which is now the draft party.
Right.
So the Steelers called me that. I can't help to adopt a name. So, are we ready for Stat Geek? We want to roll through this quick tonight because we're going to make it much better. All right, here we go. We're doing the contest again, guys. You're each going to get 3 questions. You get 2 points for getting it right. Your question, you get 1 point for a steal. I've got 3 categories. You're going to pick your category, an A or B, and we're going to roll quick. So here we go. We either have some of these are we didn't use last week because these were some good ones last week. We have greater than or less than, big fish in a little pond, or can you take me higher? Bryan, we're going to start with you to see if you can knock off Jeff from me and Geek of the Week. Which one of those do you want?
Let's go. Can you take me higher?
Is that a Creed reference?
That's a Creed reference. I've had their songs in now. I'm like, I'm 6 feet from the edge right now. Sorry. Okay, so do you want A or B? I can't remember what you said.
Let's go B.
Go B. Okay, here we go. This is now. Don't try to figure it out loud because you might give away something to the guy that's going to steal. I'm going to give you 3 names of people drafted by the Steelers in the Kevin Colbert era, and you're going to tell me which one of them was drafted higher, which one was a higher pick.
Got
okay? So here we go. Who is the highest drafted quarterback out of these three? Dennis Dixon in 2008, Landry Jones in 2013, or Joshua Dobbs in 2017? Who was taken higher? And Bryan
Well,
is
the problem
thinking.
is two of them were taken in the same round.
That is correct. Now think about, if you know the years, you could think about
I know the
year
years.
in which year the Steelers would have been drafting higher. Is a good way to think about it.
So it's going to be Landry Jones.
You are correct. That is 2 points for Bryan. He was drafted in the 4th round, pick 115. Dobbs was in the 4th round, pick 135. Man, there was a ton of 3rd round comp picks that year. That's why he was dropped so low. And then Dixon was in the 5th round. So very good, Bryan. That is 2 points for you. That's the first one you've got right. Yay! Now you got to get on a roll. Here you go, Jeff. Here's yours. Who is the highest drafted defensive back? Ike Taylor in 2003, William Gay in 2007, or Shamarko Thomas in 2013?
I'm going to say Shamarko Thomas.
That would be correct because the Steelers traded up to get him.
Yes, they did. What a pick. What a guy.
See, am I doing better with questions this week?
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. Let's not stop the momentum.
Yeah.
Do you want?
There's no one from 1936, so that's good.
Nope. Hey, everything tonight is from 70 on. You got it. So, Jeff, do you want greater than or less than, or big fish in a little pond?
We'll do greater or less than.
Okay, A or B?
We'll do A.
A. Okay. And I'll even give you the number of this if you need it. What player drafted by the Steelers? This is since the merger. This is from 70 on, has played the most games as a Steeler. Who has the most games played as a Steeler?
Mean Joe Green.
Bryan for a steal.
Mike Webster.
Mean Joe Green.
That is 1 point for Bryan.
What was the answer?
Mike Webster.
Mike Webster has the most games played. He has 220 games played as a Steeler. Ben Roethlisberger can take the lead this season. He only needs 4 games to tie, but Ben is currently 3rd because he is 1 behind Hines Ward, who was 3 games.
I just knocked on wood for all you superstitious Steeler fans out there. I just knocked on wood about Ben Roethlisberger playing 4 games.
So, all right, now Bryan gets his own question. Okay, this is one of these you either know it or you don't. Bryan, so Jeff got the greater than, you get the less than. What Steelers 1st round pick played in the least number of games? This is from the merger on, because before that, people didn't even play at all times. So who played in the least amount of games? 1st round pick played in the fewest amount of games.
I'm going to go Jermaine Stevens.
That is a good guess, but
it's wrong.
Jeff for the steal.
What was the say that a question again? I was looking at the live chat.
What 1st round draft pick by the Steelers played in the least number of games?
And is there any specific era?
It's since the merger. Don't look in the live chat. I'll give you the answer.
Yeah, Lance just I saw it. I can't take credit for it. Is it Gabe Rivera?
That is correct.
The guy that was in a car accident.
Yes. You either knew that one or you didn't. So do we give you the points for it or not?
I'm not going to take credit for that. That's Lance Williams.
That's what you're looking at the live chat. So
I always look at the live chat.
We're going. So now we have a big fish in a little pond. You're going to like this one, Jeff, but Bryan gets to pick A or B.
Bryan.
A.
All right. Here we go. This is people taken from large draft picks the Steelers have made from large schools that they haven't taken many players from, much like our opening question that we had about WVU. So here we go. In the Kevin Colbert era, who is the only player drafted out of LSU? You're on mute, Bryan.
It's mine? Gerald Hawkins.
That is correct.
Very good.
Gerald Hawkins. Round 4 of 2017. Jeff, you ready?
Yeah.
And you better know this one. In the Kevin Colbert era, who was the only player drafted out of Alabama?
It was I know that Joshua Frazier was last year, but wasn't Deshae Townsend also drafted from Alabama, or was that prior to Colbert?
Well, the answer is Joshua Frazier. So I don't know
But
where
wasn't
Deshae Townsend would have.
yeah,
Deshae Townsend also from Alabama?
he was.
I don't
Yes,
think.
yes, yes. Townsend was in.
Mm.
He was a 1998 draft pick from
Okay, so
Alabama,
that
and
was
that was
98
pre
pre-Colbert.
was
Kevin
the thing.
Colbert.
I was like, am I missing that he's from Alabama, or am I missing for the date he was drafted? And I couldn't. I'm like, it's one of those two. I just couldn't remember what the right answer was. So, thank you, Brian. So there we go. There are
Bonus
questions for
points.
the rest. We got
Bonus
the.
points for
We,
Jeff.
yep. Well, but we've got the. But that was very good, Joshua Frazier last year, and so we have our two bonus questions, which is good. Brian's winning by a point right now, so Brian gets to choose first. Okay. Brian, do you want kicking it old school or senior moment?
Let's go with senior moment.
Senior moment. Okay, this is very simple. Who was the last Steeler or the most recent Steeler picked in the first round that was picked after their senior year? Meaning going backwards, they drafted a senior, not a junior, a senior. And Brian's thinking, he's like, oh man, I gotta count back.
Let's go, Bud Dupree.
That would be correct. That would be one Alvin Bud Dupree. Very good. Yes, he was drafted. He was a senior in 2015. The last one before him was Cam Hayward in 2011. The Steelers, especially recently, it's been all underclassmen in the first round. So Brian's going to be our winner this week, but I think we should make Jeff. I think we should throw this question out to Jeff to see how much he wins by.
Nah, save it.
Okay, I'll save it. That's fine. We can move on. Brian, great job. I hope the questions weren't too easy this week, but I do feel like they were. You had to think about them, but they were answerable questions. I didn't ask you about Len Dawson or Buddy Dial or anything like that.
And you know what? And I'm not one to make excuses, but I did legitimately have the flu last week, so I just did not know it at the time.
So, well, congratulations, Brian. You are the geek of the week, and I feel like it's very fitting for you. That's
Hey, I had 4 years of geek of the week in high school, so that's no problem.
All right. So now we're next going to go to our preview segment, where now we're talking about the NFL draft in a little bit different light. Look, everyone knows the Steelers have defensive holes that they need to fill in this draft at inside linebacker, a cornerback, like we talked about earlier in the show. But what about offense? I've said this on multiple shows. I want to say it was on this one as well. I feel like if both Devons are gone, don't be surprised if the Steelers take a wide receiver in the first round. And a lot of people laugh and say he's nuts, but I can just see this team saying, you know what? We want a player that we can put into the lineup right away and have them contribute. And I think that wide receiver is a position where you can find one of those players, and it could be in the first round. So, gentlemen, you guys are the draft specialists of this tandem, this trio. In terms of wide receivers, we'll open it up to other positions after this, but I want to talk about wide receivers first. Who are some names of some players you think would have a first-round grade and that you would think would fit well into what the Steelers need in regards to receiver? We'll go with Bryan first.
Well, I'm kind of thinking here, Jeff, Dave, that I want to look at height this year. You know, we have the 5'11" guys. We have the smaller guys. Ben wants a big man. Ben wants somebody that he could go ahead and a deep threat, someone that could stretch the field, but also go up on top of a corner and pull it down. And if you had an opportunity to get DK Metcalf, the guy only played 5 games last season because he had to have surgery, but he's 6'3", he's from Ole Miss, and he is just absolutely amazing. I was at a restaurant for lunch at a sports bar, and they had an old game on with Ole Miss. So I actually got a chance to watch not just Metcalf, but AJ Brown as well, and he's a 6-footer, and Metcalf at 6'3", and those guys, I believe it was the third quarter, and it was 70-7 at one point. It was against a lesser school, but these guys were just putting on a clinic. Absolutely amazing. I think Metcalf is the true first rounder of any wide receiver, number one with a bullet in this draft. I don't think I'd be hard pressed to find another guy that is going to go before him. If you look down the list of some special guys here with some height, there's some height guys that you can get in the second round and in the third round. I know that a lot of teams are pretty impressed with N'Keal Harry. What a great name. N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. He's 6'2". He could really stretch the field. The one guy under 6 foot that I would take a look at because I just absolutely love his speed and I love what he can do, it's Paris Campbell from the Ohio State University. And you know how they love Buckeyes in Pittsburgh. He's 5'11", but he seems to be gaining some steam as a possible guy. Hakeem Butler, 6'5", from Iowa State. There might be some character concerns, and that could be painted with a broad brush, but he seems like a guy that could really be huge. Then there's West Virginia University's David Seals at, I believe he's 6'3", or is he 6'5", Dave?
He is 6'3", 211.
And he seems like a guy that they like later, and then they could get even in the fourth round.
I'm talking about
probably
him.
Do some things there. Okay, you know what? So I'm not going to steal them, but I've got 15 guys on this list right here, and it's a very deep wide receiver draft. They're going to get an impact wide receiver. There's one more guy I want to mention. It has nothing to do with how well he plays. I think he's pretty good, from South Carolina. I've heard some good things about him. I know he's coming for a visit, but if you get a chance to get a guy named Debo on the team, Debo Samuel, I need me some Debo. That's all I've got to say about that.
He's only 5'11".
I still named Debo. I'll go ahead and make an exception there.
All right, Dave, what do you think?
Okay, I think there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft, meaning beyond the first round. So that's why I know some people would think, oh, if the Steelers can get a great wide receiver in the first round, take it. I think they can get a great wide receiver in the second, third, or even fourth round. And that's why I wouldn't be jumping all over something unless someone really, really great is there. And from what I see, DK Metcalf, the best thing I have him, CBS has him ranked like 18th overall. I know stuff like Pro Football Focus has him in the top 10 as the only guy that would be there for the Steelers to really want. That would be like, it would be great if he made it down to them. But like I said to Jeff earlier this week, I always get concerned when the biggest thing that people like about a guy is the combine, where the combine is what makes him really, really stand out, because that's not football. That's great measurables, but it's not football. I want to see them play football. And Bryan was exactly right. The biggest thing with Metcalf was he didn't play that many games this past season, and that just happens. But he did have great measurables. So I would say I think there's so much value to be had later. And from everything that I've read, they say that some people say that the Steelers are really, really high on both West Virginia wide receivers, but especially Sills, who's a guy that a lot of people projected in the fourth round. I could see them taking him if they are keeping all their picks and haven't traded them away. I could see them even taking him as their later third round pick. Because that's kind of what they do. They did that with James Conner. A lot of people thought he was a fourth round guy. They had that comp pick at the end of the third round. They didn't want to mess around and wait for the fourth round. They took him in the third because they wanted him bad. I could see that happening, where the Steelers have that wide receiver that stands out to them. And I really trust them with their evaluation, that I would much rather see them grab a guy second, third, fourth round that they think is the guy rather than go for the big flashy first round guy.
Yeah, I feel there's definitely options there, but let's not discredit the rest of the offense. There are some other positions that might be worth looking into. I think most would say that tight end would be a position of need. Running back would be a position of need. Maybe not as starting need, but still a need. Swing it over to Bryan. Positionally, Bryan, if you have some prospects, that's great. If not, what positions offensively, other than wide receiver, should the Steelers be thinking to target early in the process?
Tight end, Noah Fant from Iowa, TJ Hawkinson from Iowa. They both already look good in black and gold. I would take either one of them in the first round and be happy with it.
Any other positions though other than tight end?
They do need to bring somebody in as a running back. The one name that I've seen them linked to quite a bit has been Miles Sanders, who from Penn State University, who came out when this whole thing with Le'Veon Bell was happening and just said flat out, I would do anything to be a Steeler. Yeah. So I mean, but that's somebody that's expressing interest, but he's also did some very good things as a Nittany Lion as well. I have focused more on the wide receivers and the tight ends. Running back is probably, in the 5 or 6 round range for them, maybe even a 7th rounder at running back. I could see him bringing one in, but not too early with everything else they're trying to accomplish.
Dave, what do you think about positionally and positions and players they might be interested in?
I think that's a good point with what Bryan said. There's positions that the Steelers need to draft. The question is, how high do you want to draft them? They need to draft a tight end. They really do. I know some people think that Bucky Hodges off the practice squad could even unseat Xavier Grimble as the number 2. That would be fantastic, but they still need someone else because they would also want a guy that even could be a practice squad guy. Do you want to draft a tight end that high, knowing that he's going to be probably your number 2? Tight end is one I could see that they could. I think that that Hawkinson is head and shoulders above Fant. I think Fant got a lot of situational stuff. I'm just not quite as sold on some of the measurable stuff with him when it came to his production on the field. But they're both pretty good, I have to admit. But I wouldn't mind like the guy out of LSU later on that I know they had him in for a pre-draft visit. Is it Moreau? I think it is. Yeah. Foster Moreau, I think, is the guy that they had in. But I know he's a tight end from LSU. I could see tight end being a position that's later on. Running back, once again, you don't want to take a running back way high because James Conner is going to start off as your starter, and Jalen Samuels is most likely going to be your backup. So you're looking at someone that's more of a third guy. I'm reserving that first round draft pick for someone that I feel can come in and play right away. I know they don't always want to have them play right away, but I want to feel that there's the potential that if they come in and show that they're ready, that they could. So I would rather it be at a position that they're not going to get buried in the depth chart. A position no one's talking about that the Steelers very well could draft and could surprise people with. I don't think that they will, but they could be right tackle. Right now, it seems like there's a lot of guys they have fighting for it, that they have 3 guys fighting for that spot. I don't think drafting a right tackle in the 6th or 7th round would be beneficial because they have 3 guys that are already going to be ahead of them. You almost got to look at where you sit with what you have versus what you'd be bringing in. That's why I'm not totally sold with the wide receiver at the top unless you get the best. I'm more of an all-in, let's go get the inside linebacker, even if you have to trade up to do it, because I think that would be the most plug-and-play position right now. But I trust the Steelers have a plan with what they're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have a plan, and it's going to be I think that their plan might be that they just don't know how it's going to unfold, just like the rest of us. and let's see where Devin White goes. Let's see where Devin Bush is slotted to go, and from there, the read and react kind of, that type of situation. But it's going to be fun, and we're going to be with you the whole time. Just to mention a couple things. First and foremost, don't forget about the giveaway. If you're just tuning in late, if you're live, we're live on YouTube currently. You can go back, listen to the beginning of the show where we talk about how we're giving away 2 free tickets to the Steelers draft party the Saturday of the draft. You'll hear rounds 4 through 7 announced. All you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as answer the question, which Dave's question was, in the Kevin Colbert era, who's the only player that was drafted from West Virginia University? And the reason that's a question is because I'm from West Virginia. So thank you very much for that, Dave. Also, while we're talking about the draft, every single day of the NFL draft, we will be giving you a podcast at the end of that day. So round 1, Thursday, after the draft is over, we're going to have a show. I talked about it last night. It might be a super show. We might actually coax Lance Williams on with us. So it'd be the Steelers preview and the standard is the standard morphing into one. That would be kind of crazy. They're not going to be really long shows. We're going to recap the pick, what happened, what didn't happen, and we'll do the same thing. I can't promise everyone will be with us every single round, but we will have a show for you live on YouTube, as well as our audio platforms as well, after the pick. It's not going to be immediately after the pick, but after the pick, we will be having a show for you. So make sure you check that out, and make sure you obviously tell your friends, tell everyone that you know is a Steeler fan. So at this point in time is where we go into our either or segment. It's where we sometimes we detach ourselves from sports. Sometimes we have sports questions. It's where we ask each other some either or questions, and it's just a fun way to end the show. So Dave typically goes first. He's like our leadoff batter. And so Dave, go ahead with your either or for the week.
All right. I do one other last thing I do have to say. I would feel like we would be not doing our job if we did not at least mention the wide receiver from Notre Dame, who's also been linked to the Steelers later on. That's Boykin. I just feel like, how could we have a show where we talked about it if we didn't at least mention that one? Because that could very well be someone who ends up in black and gold. Either or. Okay, let's do this. I'm thinking in life, especially in the workplace, a lot of times you just kind of find that person that you don't really mesh with. And at times you're even at odds at them. And me, I'm more of a practical joker myself. So there's someone out there that is going to sometimes just have to be someone that's going to just kind of be the brunt of those jokes, almost like a workplace nemesis. The question is, which kind of nemesis would you prefer? Would you rather have someone who's just kind of all stern and strict and no fun, and you just mess with them and it's hilarious, but they don't really even know how to react? Or do you kind of want to go against the other guy that's kind of the intelligent guy that seems like he's too much above all the rest of you, but at the same time, you better watch out because it might be coming back at you. So it all becomes to this. Bryan might know where I'm coming from right here. If you're going to square off against somebody, are you squaring off against Frank Burns or Charles Emerson Winchester III?
Bryan, you can go.
Okay, I heard I missed the first option. I got Charles Emerson Winchester III. What was the other one?
Or Frank Burns. Who would you rather be squaring off against if you were going to be joking around with people?
Wow. Gosh, you know what? I'm a big Frank Burns fan. That guy is just would be so much more fun to mess with. That's why I really liked the early years of MASH so much better. How can't you mess with a guy like that? After a while, a guy like Emerson, he doesn't get that. Winchester didn't get that upset with you. I mean, he was kind of more of a blah guy, and then they were friends at the end. They would have never been friends with old Nickel Nose. And one of my favorite MASH quotes was from the pilot. I have seen the pilot of MASH about, and I'm not kidding, I would probably say over 50 times I've seen that in an individual episode. It's my favorite. And when he comes in and realizes they were looking for money in his Bible, And Trapper John says, just perfectly deadpan, he goes like, I picked at the end, Frank. The devil did it. One of the greatest shows ever. And he would get so upset. That's the guy you mess with.
You tell him, ferret face.
Ferret face? Nick Renaud's ferret face? He had a bunch.
I'm just messing with it, yeah.
You guys are speaking a different
Jeff,
language.
I was going to say, do you even know what we're talking about?
No.
Or do we need to put you in a 3-minute timeout while the adults have a conversation?
You can put me in a timeout as long as I don't have to listen. That's fine with me. I was always that guy when my parents were talking and they said, you got to go to the other room. We're talking. I'm like, hey, that's fine. I don't want to listen to y'all talk anyways. In terms of the lead up to your question, because I have no clue who you're talking about, I'll always take the challenge over the person that has no clue what you're saying. I like to think that I'm an intelligent person and I like to be challenged. I don't like things that are easy, that are done. I like the challenge. I've always have, especially in certain areas of my life. We'll put it that way. So there you go. To answer your question in layman's terms.
All right. So in Jeff Hartman terms, it's he's a Charles Emerson Winchester III. Myself, when someone is just so bad at understanding the things that you're messing with them and they're just such a bad guy, you get to a point where you almost just feel bad for the guy because he just has no clue how to respond when they were messing with him. Personally, I say if I was going to be in that situation, give me a Charles. Give me someone that I know that although I could constantly get them over and over and over again, eventually I got to be aware that there could be a point where it's going to come back at me.
All right. What show are you guys talking about?
You have got to be kidding me.
I wasn't really paying attention.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, what did you all say? Is it
There's a show called MASH. A couple
MASH?
people watched it.
MASH? I've heard of MASH. I never watched MASH, but I've heard of MASH.
You're
in a timeout.
That was before my time. I was born in 1983. I was not no, didn't watch MASH. Anyways, you guys can hate me later. You guys already hate me for my television and movies selections anyways, because I've never seen a Star Wars movie and a lot of those types, whatever, the sci-fi stuff.
But wait a second. Jeff, your birthday is in...
Wait,
seriously.
I'm not hating on MASH. I just have never
You're not hating. You're not hating. Your birthday is in February, right?
Yeah.
Is February what?
February 20th of 1983.
Okay, the very last episode of MASH aired on February 28th, 1983. So there you go.
So
you were 8 days old when the very...
And there you go. That's why I don't know what the hell you are talking about. So anyways, we'll switch channels here and go over to some modern talk. We'll put it that. Okay, so if you don't follow golf, the Masters is on, and it is probably one of my favorite weekends of the year. I've been a golfer since I was about 6 or 7 years old with my dad and my brother in the backyard with just a wedge, working on chipping and swinging the golf club. And the Masters has always been very special in my family. It's one of those things that I want to do before I die, is to get to Augusta National and to watch a live round of golf, not a practice round, not the stupid par 3 competition. I want to watch a live round of golf at Augusta National. And so I was watching today, and I've been to major championships before here in Maryland. I went to the U.S. Open in 2011 when Rory McIlroy won it, and there's just so many people there. It's just it's everywhere. And if you're trying to be at a prime spot in a golf tournament, you're sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people deep. And it made me think, how, and we're all at different ages in our lives. Okay. Where you are right now, would you rather go to a sporting event, or would you rather stay at home and watch the event in the comfort of your own home, on your television, in your recliner, on your couch, whatever the case may be? Are you a person that still likes to get to that event? Or are you someone that says, you know what, now I'd just rather stay at home? Bryan, let's go with you first.
Let's take mileage out of the equation. Let's just say if it's right down the street, I want to be there in person. I want to be at the live event. The only reason that I'm not going to be there is the fact that for me, I'm 3 hours away from the stadium, a Steeler game. So I don't go as often because I lose the entire day for those 3 hours. I like to go maybe once a year, but it's hard for me to go. So I'm happy in my recliner. However, if there's a chance to go, I'm not passing it up, especially a Super Bowl. My parents have been to a Super Bowl. My friends have. I have not been to a Steelers Super Bowl, and that is number one on my bucket list. If I get a chance to go to anything, I'm going. I've been to a baseball all-star game. It's been amazing. I've had a chance to see a lot of things, but for me, I want to know that I've accomplished as much and seen as much as possible, and just the atmosphere, the crowd, just being there, it feels great. Whether it's a Pirate game in April or an AFC Championship game in 2 degrees, I want to be there.
All right. What about you, Dave?
I like both, but in a way of I'm going. I really like to be there, but I don't have to be there every time. I have season tickets that I share with my brother-in-law to the Steelers. I go to not count the playoffs. I go to 2 and at most 3 games a year, and I like to spread them out. I don't want it to be, week 3 and week 5. I like to spread it out. There's nothing beats going, but it's the same problem as Bryan. It's the whole day. If it's a night game, I would rather be at home rather than be dealing with coming back at 3 and 4 in the morning because I'm old, as you all figured out based on my MASH question. So there's something about being there. I love it. I don't know that I ever want to go to another Steeler game not at Heinz Field unless it would be the Super Bowl, just because once you're at Heinz Field, it's no good anywhere else. The baseball, I still do baseball games, just haven't made it to Pittsburgh for a while. Went to my first playoff hockey game last year. That was just phenomenal. And since you asked, one of the best experiences I had was several years ago. My nephew asked me to take him to a golf tournament outside of DC, where we were ahead of the crowd following someone else and came back to see Tiger Woods, where everyone else was on the left side of the fairway and we were on the right side of the fairway. And Tiger Woods almost hit us with his ball. And we were down standing next. He hit it to the right, and we were down standing next to his ball. I'm telling you, I was so close to Tiger Woods. I had the cameraman was standing beside me, and I had to lean backwards on his practice swings to make sure he wasn't hitting me in the face because I was standing that close to Tiger Woods taking a shot. It was fantastic going to that golf event. I got acknowledged by Vijay Singh when I held the rope up for him to step through because he didn't walk on the regular path. That was so cool too. I don't have to go to all of them, but give me one sporting event every once in a while to go to live because it's such a good experience.
Yeah, no, if I'm answering this question, for me, it depends on the event. Golf is phenomenal. I've been going to golf tournaments. I used to go to the Bridgestone in Akron, Ohio, where my aunt and uncle used to live. We went as kids. I remember hopping a fence to get Tom Watson's autograph as he was walking into his car in the parking lot. And so I have really cool memories there. But the only problem about going to an event like golf is that there's 18 holes. And there's a whole field of golfers out there, and you're used to being in your living room and then bouncing around, and you're not missing many shots, especially the big name players. When you're on the course, you basically sit down at a hole where you have, and this is what we always did. Whenever I go with my dad and my brother, we walk the course. We catch as many golfers as we can, and then we find that one spot where you maybe have a green tee and a fairway right near you, and you can kind of navigate between those 3 and watch people come through. But in terms of Steelers and football, if you've never been to Heinz Field, and I know there's a lot of people that haven't, you need to go, period. I don't care if it's a preseason game. It's not the same, but you still need to go. I don't care if the Steelers have a losing season and the game means nothing. You still need to go. So if you live over in Europe, save money and make the trip because it's kind of like a Steeler fans mecca. you have to get there because it is the most welcoming environment that I've ever been to, as well as it gives you chills if you've been there for a big game. The last time I was there was the Bengals game on Sunday Night Football when Terrence Garvin broke the punter's jaw. The Steelers jumped out to a really big lead early in that game. Bryan, tell me the year was at 2000 and was it 12? Bryan, do you remember?
Was it a December Sunday night game?
Oh yeah, it was freezing. They were giving away free hot chocolate. It was so cold.
Was it the infamous game that they've just been talking about with Ben fumbling at the end?
Well,
Is it the?
I guess it might have been. I did not.
Ben fumbling at the end was the game that Le'Veon Bell got knocked out.
Bell got hurt.
I was at that game, and that was in December, but I was wearing shorts. It wasn't that cold.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the same game because now I didn't stay till the end. The story for why I was there for a friend of mine that was dying of ALS, essentially. We ended up leaving early because he wasn't very comfortable in the stadium, but still, I don't think that was the same game, personally. I didn't know if you knew that. The Terrence Garvin hit is what everyone remembers when he
Ken from New Jersey said it was 2014.
Okay, probably right. 2014. That was also the year. That was the year that Bell got hurt in Week 17 against the Bengals, and then the next week is when Josh Harris had to play, and they had to pick up. Who's the running back that they had to pick up off the street?
It was Ben Tate. I didn't read back enough. Ken from New Jersey said no, that the Le'Veon Bell was 2014, that the one you're referring to, Jeff, was 2013.
Okay. I knew it was around 2012, 2013. Okay. So, but for me, I still love going to events. The funny thing is that sporting events never really disappoint. You understand there's good and bad with it, and you might not always win when you're there. The one thing that I've become very skeptical with are concerts. Because I've been burned with concerts. I've been burned with concerts where you go and you're like, that wasn't that great. That artist did not perform very well. And I know that Bryan is a big concert guy. So that's just me personally. I thought that's a good question, because everyone my dad is at a different stage in his life where he doesn't want to go to see a Steeler game anymore. He's been to a bunch. He goes, I'd rather just watch at home. He said that way when I have to go to the bathroom 15 times because I'm drinking beer, I don't have to, get up and go find the concourse and all that stuff. So it's just different for everyone. So I don't want to take up too much time. Bryan, go ahead with yours.
Real quick, I didn't get a chance to get in. I was trying to get in with Dave was talking about his Tiger Woods experience. And Dave, I don't want to diminish anything that you enjoyed there, but lots of people got hit in the face with Tiger Woods balls back in the 2000s. So I mean,
this is true. Factual information.
So I mean, I just had to bring that up. Okay, so
into Bryan's either or, I'm sure.
Actually, this is probably one of my more tame either ors, and you guys are probably going to be disappointed. But so hypothetically, SB Nation says, guys, I'm giving you a sideline pass to cover a Steelers game. And so you're on the sidelines, you're covering the game, you're watching the action, it's fantastic. Then all of a sudden, you look up and a player is barreling down on you. Do you, A, run away like a pansy, even though you know that all your friends and family are watching this game on TV because they know there's a chance to see you? Or B, do you hunker down and take that hit?
I want to go. I want to go. I want to go. Dude,
let the giant say something.
I'm enormous. Anyone who wants to try to hit me, I think I could take it, and I'm not going to run away. Oh, if they're coming for my ankles or something, no. But if they're coming trucking, I'm just going to lower my shoulder and say, let's have a nice little collision and see if I can get on SportsCenter.
For me, I'm not a giant. 5'9", 170 to 175. So I'm probably going to take the embarrassment, and I'm getting the hell out of there. I get, yeah, I couldn't imagine taking a hit from one of those guys. Even the smaller guys on the football field, I mean, fully padded, you're going to get messed up. I mean, we've all seen those cameramen that get hit. Sometimes it's bad. Officials, those sidelines, you feel bad for the chain gang because sometimes they just have to drop the chains and run. But Brian, what would you do?
Well, this has happened to me. And November 22nd, I believe it was November 22nd of 1992. It was Bill Cowher's first season. It was the game against the Indianapolis Colts that the Bubby Brister started, and it was the first touchdown of Yancey Thigpen's career. And I was on the sidelines for that game. I was a senior in college, and I was working part-time for a Fox channel in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And they said, hey, you could go ahead. No one's using the tickets. You have to take the camera and go ahead and try to get some action and do a little something after the game. So it was amazing. It was an opportunity of a lifetime. Like I said, I was still in college. I was wearing my fraternity jacket. I'm here on the sidelines the entire game, trying to capture it. And then all of a sudden, here comes a player barreling down on me. Not a big one at all. It was Dwight Stone. Everybody remembers number 20, Dwight Stone. He was about 180 pounds. And I was probably right around 170 at the time. And I knew my fraternity brothers were watching, and I still ran away. And to this day, 26 years later, I'm ashamed that I ran away. I should have taken the hit. I did not. But I have met Dwight Stone twice since then. And when I told him the story, he was like, "Oh my God, did I hurt you?" And I'm like, "No, I ran away." He's like, he looks at me and goes, "Why'd you run?" I'm like, "I was afraid." He goes, "I'm not that big." I'm like, I was still afraid that I'd break the camera and have to pay for it. And part of me just didn't want to get hurt. And now I wish I would have taken it. So I don't care if it's the big snack Casey Hampton coming towards me or if it's Ryan Switzer. I'm hunkering down and I'm taking that hit now and whatever comes with it. I need to save face.
All right. Well, that's been a very good. I like that either or segment, even though I didn't get Dave's question per se. But still, I would not take that hit. Just think if Levon Kirkland's bearing down on you, you're not taking that hit. Your instincts are going to take over. You're not hankering down. If you saw number 99 coming full speed ahead at you, you're running like a little girl or like a little kid, period. I don't care who you are. You are not. Or think about Greg Lloyd or someone just, I don't know why I'm thinking of the 95, 90, like the mid-90s teams. Those guys are huge. Come on. Get out of here. I know, Dave, you're a big man. And Brian, you're a big man too. But at the same time, you're not taking that hit.
I want redemption. I need redemption.
Well, Jeff, when I was coaching high school football, I was jumping in to show linemen how to block in live drills and live scrimmages.
I believe you, Dave.
All the time. And they're like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" I'm like,
high school athletes are not National Football League players.
Oh, okay. I know. And I know it would hurt, but I'm not going to run from it.
I'm running like crazy. I'm honest. But instinct would take over, and you're getting the heck out of there. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, thank you for your time. If you're listening live, whether it's on YouTube, live chat, or if you're watching in playback on YouTube, or if you're watching or listening an audio platform, we appreciate it. Make sure you get into that giveaway. Go back to the beginning of the show, listen to all the details, listen to the question that's been midway through the show. You got to subscribe to the YouTube channel and then get your entry in by emailing Dave. I'll put his email address, in the comment section below, as well as in the Behind the Steel Curtain article. So check that out. As
we have
always,
a line of when we need to get it by.
They just have to get all four. If they want to save all their questions and get them to you, it's all about getting them right. And then at the end, so by the end of the contest, so they have time.
So we'll give a deadline at the end of the fourth question.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So the deadline, no problem. So with that said, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. This has been another episode of the Steelers Preview. We will see you next week.